Oh, thank you. That's my stuff.
Hi, everybody.
My work.
To all the participants out there, hello once again. We are here at the First Nations Reflections, and as I explained last night and also today, we're trying to make some space within this within this symposium that is the second National Asian Heritage Month Symposium for the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit friends that we have, and we're offering them some time just to take the time and the space. So I'm actually going to pass it over to them to do whatever they'd like to for the next 45 minutes or so. So I'm going to pass the ball over to you, Oizogo, and you can introduce yourselves, and also Teresa, who's marked down as Farah. I'm not sure why there's a number of Farahs who on the screen today, but again, we're dealing with technical glitches. So thank you very much for being here, you all.
Okay, hi. Okay, I'm not sure where I'm going from here, but this morning our talk was cut a little short, and there were some things, I guess, that we wanted to talk about being Native, and some of the things that have happened to us that really impacts on how we do things today. Like, for example, my artwork, I focus really only on Native spirituality and philosophy, and I do that because who's better to tell our story than ourselves? And there's a lot of, I guess, issues with intellectual property, like who owns culture, which is like a big thing right now, because we never know, whenever we're posting any of our images or pictures of ourselves or art, where it's going to land up. And I'll give you an example. I was in Kelowna, BC for a workshop. And I was in the workshop and I'm watching the presenter, and all of a sudden, I scored! Because my artwork was in the presentation that this PhD lady was doing. And I was like, oh, okay, I wonder how she got that. How come my name's not there? There was no citation or anything. So that's like an issue when we're looking at how people take art or create art, or what belongs to which nations even. Another example of that would be the dream catchers. Dream catchers are part of, I believe it's Anishinaabe birthing rites, and the grandma makes that for her grandbabies when they come into the world. But now you find them all over, and a lot of them are imported from Asian countries. So anyways, I'll put that on the table for whoever wants to comment on that.
I guess that be me, because I'm the only other picture up here. Talking about the appropriation of our artwork, we have to remember when we start making craft for financial aid. And that was when the Europeans first started coming, and we lost so much through disease and war, et cetera, et cetera. We start selling our craft, little things. Even Geronimo sold his bows and signed his bows, you know, back in the day. And that just opened up a possibility for other nations that were struggling, because we have this history and it's been romanticized for Europeans and for Canadians and even the States, you know? And so they go, oh, well, here, I can learn how to make that. You talked about the dream catcher. I actually, when I was doing craft, because I'm a crafter, I had looked it up, and there was a photo taken of one of the first guys that ran around taking pictures of us. And he took a picture of Kill Spotted Horse wearing a dream catcher. But he had no idea what it was, right? And so he said, oh, that meaning has been lost over time. No, that was for us. That was our traditions amongst our people. And we traded when we got together, you know? Someone saw maybe a knife or a whatever, and we just traded. And that's how that spread. Well, those people who are into manufacturing, because it's only been really out, I'd say within 25 years, it came out really strong.
Fun with technology. So thank you so much for your patience with us today. We're having some challenges, let's just say, to say the least. So anyways, in the meantime, I hope that you all are having fun out there as well. And Martin's got his drink with him, and yeah. Teresa's out there as well. Teresa, did you want to say where you're coming from?
From a good place.
A place of power and strength. Good one.
Originally, I'm from Saskatchewan. I'm Métis. What was that?
I don't know. I think we have a poltergeist or something.
There's someone following us, Martin. Okay, so originally, I'm sorry, I get talking because, you know, I'm old. But I'm originally from Saskatchewan. I'm Métis, and I moved out here maybe 32 years ago because I was running from racism. And I landed up in Quebec. And the only thing that saved me was my crafts, because I couldn't speak the language. I mean, I spoke a little bit, but it really sounded like Michif, you know? It didn't sound like real French. And so that's what I did. I did my crafts to survive, and I did powwows, etc. And I opened up a store, and what we say is Pure Land territory. And I didn't know that because I didn't know how much racism I would face. I really didn't. I was really naive. And arts and crafts, I could say from my experience here, anyone who is doing arts and crafts that respect of history and understanding and culture and tradition wasn't there, you know. It just, everything you did from the moment you opened your door or opened your stand or whatever, it was education, it was sharing the culture, the tradition, where the ideas came from, and understanding as well. No ideas are original anymore because we've been doing them, you know, since forever. The only thing that's different is our own sense of creativity, you know. So yeah, that's what I did, and then I used it to be that balancing wheel of history and culture. And so, like I was saying, the dream catcher is now being like a Wissako's comment. Yeah, they're made in China, they're made in the Philippines, they're made in Mexico, they're made in the States, they're made in France, everywhere, because it was something simple a manufacturer could do and make good money with it. And the people who aren't educated, who don't understand history or the loss to Indigenous peoples and everything else that's tied into it, spirituality, they didn't care. They didn't care so some grandmother was making them and selling them at her booth so that she could buy her groceries or take care of the kids. You know, everything's connected. And so manufacturing of our items is everywhere, even Benjamin Chichi's work. You know, he was the first guy to do the geese, right? Somebody went and stole all his stuff, and they're selling them as the real things, and they're not. Look at it in the States. You know that thing I put on Facebook the other day? They got big companies, big guys that are like, that can get their stuff made in Asia somewhere, in Arab land or China or whatever, Philippines, really cheap, and then they bring it back into the States and into Canada, and they sell it as the real deal. So the guy who's sitting at home buying his slabs of silver like this, you know, for too much money, is like really suffering because the buyer doesn't realize how much it cost them, how long it took him to train himself, his education, and his art. It's all gone. It's all gone. So if you're selling a pair of earrings for $75 and the manufacturer is selling that same earring that he ripped off you for 20 bucks, you know, they're not going to respect your work. And you know that one, right? Like, you know that. It's like for all of us, right? No matter what you do, whether it's drumming or rattles or, you know, Martin and I have spoke often on that subject. It's like, it's irritating, right? We can't find a way to protect our people from another loss. You know, that we lost our culture, our tradition, our language, our identity. Well, let's lose the arts as well. You know, the States has got it good though. Those people over there really got their stuff together and they protect their artists. But in Canada, it's not the same. You know, if you're sitting at home and that's all you do, right? Because you can't get a job. It's very hard to get a job if you're prominent, if you show you're Indigenous, very hard to get a job. So you're sitting at home and you don't have enough money for grub. Well, it's your art. You make a pair of moccasins, you can, you know, sell your moccasins and buy your grub. Some people are like that. My auntie made it for bingo money and to help pay the rent. But you know, it's like a different world now. 2020 is a different world. You know, so people are selling their moccasins $350, but it's worth it because they're doing a full beaded vamp and around it, but that's time. It's not like at a manufacturer's got the big machines like a boop, 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 and it's done, you know? So that's
how long does it take them to make the moccasins?
Well, a full beaded moccasin, have you ever done beading at all, dear? Me,
Not
a barrette this
at
big.
all.
Okay, a barrette this big, just like this big, and put my other finger here, you know, like 3 little circles. That takes me 3 hours. Just that, you know,
Yeah, it
and
takes long.
nowadays, huh?
It takes long.
Exactly. It can take days to make one. You know, 3 hours to make a little beaded barrette, and I have to sell it for 25 bucks.
Whenever I've ever been at a table with my artwork or my crafts or whatever, that is a common question. You know, people ask, how long did it take you to make that? You know, I say sometimes, and I hear that often and often, you know, more frequently than I really care to. I often say I've been making art since I was 6 years old, so I'll be 60. So it's like 54 years. It took me 54 years because, you know, you have to teach yourself, you have to train yourself, you have to gain the I guess the expertise, you know, the design, all of these things. And on top of that, you know, you have your traditions, you know, your culture and your history and all of the craftspeople that came before, and you have to be able to try to invest your art with that sensibility to make it authentic. Because if you don't, then you're kind of recreating, you know, something you saw in a book or something, you know, you imagine what do people at a powwow or a gallery, what do they expect? And, you know, if you start doing that, then you're down a slippery slope, or you're kind of making stuff purely to sell. And I think, you know, with art has to be something that sometimes is difficult. You know, sometimes it's like your blood, your sweat, your tears, you know, all of the concerns that you have to kind of be wrapped up in that artwork, and you have to be able to present it authentically. And, you know, people have to eventually appreciate it and then pay, you know, what it's worth. Most craftspeople and even fine artists, you know, are working basically at minimum wage. You know, I mean, it's kind of the truth. The truth is that, you know, people have to struggle and people have to, you know, gain an audience. And luckily, like what Teresa was saying about the bead workers, and especially with moccasins and, you know, really high-end, high-end crafts, people are going online and they're getting, you know, what they want for them. You know, and people are, you know, like there's a couple women in Kahnawake, and men too, you know, who are creating things and putting them online. and they have collectors. You know, they have people all over the world who are looking for really good stuff, and you know, are willing to pay for it and see the value and see the collectability even of these items, so that, you know, it's not just like you know, like in clothing, like the fashion, they say like fast fashion, you know, kind of like, you know, you pay 29 bucks for it and you got yourself a shirt or you got yourself something, you know, whereas if you go and you meet with someone who makes a beautiful ribbon shirt and makes it for you and does the beadwork for you and includes items that are important to you, you know, you appreciate it more, you value it more, and it's something that, you know, I would think that you keep it forever, and then, you know, it's something that you can pass on, you know, to your children or your grandchildren, and, you know, people will appreciate it into the future. You know, that goes with art, with fine art too, like with prints or paintings or sculptures or, you know, dance and all of these things, you know, that are there. Like we are here today, you know, we're all alive, we're experiencing our lives in 2020, like you said, Teresa, and everybody else, you know, that, you know, we're here, we're experiencing things, but, you know, I think in a sense we have to look to history. You know, in 20 years, in 30 years, I probably won't be here in 30 years, but hopefully, you know, some of my
You'll
art,
be
well,
here,
maybe I will
Martin.
be. Maybe I'll live to 100, who knows? But I mean, you know, our artwork will persist. It will be
Yeah.
there, and hopefully, you know, the next generation of young people who are coming up will be able to appreciate it and then build on that, you know, and make, you know, even bolder statements, or, you know, say, well, what they were saying or doing in 2020, you know, doesn't apply to us today, and now we're, you know, making, you know, three-dimensional 3D art that is moving, you know, doing all these things. But, you know, for the here and now, you know, I think we have to do, in a sense, we have to do almost like the best job that we can, you know, for ourselves, but also for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like your artwork there, I always go, you know, like every day it gets better, right? That creativity just blossoms every day you wake up, because you're on another path and you understand that stroke now, where it's going to lead. You know, it becomes perfection, right? The kids looking at it now is going to look, oh, I want to do that. And they're going to learn from you. Even if you're not there, they're going to see your art. And that's the blessing of what we do, right? That's that added bonus to what we do. The thing is the people who are struggling now are the people who are on the street. Like, we got a lot of Inuit, you know, they're making their carvings and they're living on the street and they're selling them really cheap because they need that money for whatever is going on with them, right? And some days whatever is going on is really strong. So they're going to say, here, take it for 10 bucks. You know, they just want to buy that one little bottle. But that goes with the women too, you know. Like even my auntie, she only had one arm. She used to make moccasins and mandalas and all kinds of like beaded rosettes, and she sold them real cheap, you know. We got to get past that. We got to find a way to bring our artists together in one place. Say, this is yours, and give them that part and say, whatever is sold from here, the money will go to you. You know, but we got to be the ones who go out there and put it in the art galleries, you know, not just say, well, okay, go find some place to buy it. No. We got to do the work for them. We got to find those buyers. And they come here because I used to work at a gallery in Montreal. And boy, we got some big time buyers and they wanted the good stuff, you know, but those people weren't always coming, and they were willing to spend like $3,000 on a carving. But you know, I had to buy it from a co-op because the little artists weren't going, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult.
Well, I think sometimes like art and business almost don't match, you know, like people who are making art aren't necessarily good business people, you know, and sometimes business people aren't good artists, you know, kind of deal. And what a business person who is selling things to an international market kind of deal has something in mind, you know, and then when they influence the people who are producing it, then it's kind of like, the cart is in front of the horse, you know, kind of deal, you know, in my mind, you know, selling your art isn't everything, you know. There's enough people I say, well, I had an exhibition and nothing sold, you know, or I had an exhibition and everything sold. And, you know, I mean, I don't think, I mean, people have to live, right? They have to be able to feed themselves. They have to be able to clothe themselves. They have to be able to continue. But at the same time, it shouldn't only be about what sells and what doesn't sell. And, you know, I think sometimes, like I said, that little, the good person, the right and the left, make something that's make something that's true to yourself. You know, I think, you know, like everybody else, like in history and even today, you know, I think people, creative people will find a way to make something that is unique, that is interesting, that satisfies their own kind of creative, you know, instincts or bent, you know. And sometimes they go down the wrong road, you know. Sometimes they go and they say, you know, after a year or two, you know, like maybe I shouldn't go that way. Maybe I'll go in a different direction. And that's when you get into, you know, people who are like multimedia artists, you know, who use different materials, you know, kind of like you got to like, you know, kind of strike when the iron is hot. And then hopefully, you know, when you peak, you know, an audience will find your work and you'll be able to, you know, do that thing where, you know, it's something that is important to you, something that is important to your culture, and that there is an audience for that. So the happy medium, I think, is, I think everybody looks for that for sure. And there are some people who are both, you know, commercially viable, that, you know, sell well, but then are true to themselves, you know, and make things, you know, that are important to themselves, and the people will follow them, you know. And that is, I think that's important for us to consider sometimes.
That's why if we had an organization, like we have people like Awisako come in and be a mentor to people how to paint. I mean, it'd be like our own art center. That means people can live just without having to worry about where they're going to sell something. They're in their own community organization only for arts. Wouldn't that be something? Because not everybody nowadays, come on, Martin, you know, it's not everybody can say, well, I'm not going to follow down that road. I'm just going to sit home and create. Not everybody got the money to do that.
Exactly.
You know? So we've got to do something, have these mentors, have you, have Oswego, these whoever else is joining here, and do something so that we can have that respect placed on the things we've done, that we do, and that we will do. All right?
Well, that's why it's important, I think, to is to organize, you know, because if you stand alone, one person standing alone, well, the wind blows and it can knock you over, you know, kind of deal, you know. Or I'll use a method, the symbolism of the arrow, you know, like in our traditions, you know, the peacemaker, as an example, used one arrow, and he took an arrow and he snapped it in half, you know, and it's possible. Even a child, in a sense, could snap an arrow. But if you wrap 2 arrows, it's harder. If you wrap 3 arrows, it becomes difficult. If you wrap 6 arrows, it's impossible to crack in half. You know, so when people join together, you know, and organize themselves, you know, then they become a force. They become something that, you know, galleries or museums or arts organizations, you know, so-called mainstream arts organizations can't deny it. You know, they have to deal with groups of artists. And I think the most successful arts organizations in Canada with Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people have taken advantage of that, you know, that they have, you know, banded together and said, you know, we are going to stand as a collective, as an organization, and we are going to, you know, ask for a place at the table to be able to join in with everybody else and to discuss these issues of representation, of you know, fairness in exhibition policies and so on. And what I like is that I would say in the last maybe 5 years, 10 years, and to me, I would say like social media has a hand to play in that, and the media in general, in the sense that, you know, museums at one time, and even galleries, you know, not for profit and even profit galleries, you know, have been asked tough questions like, so have you had, you know, Indigenous representation in your gallery? You know, they can, well, maybe we sell a few pieces. Have you had a curator, an Indigenous curator, you know, who organized these exhibitions? Has that ever happened? And you would be absolutely floored. You know, some of the top museums and galleries and cultural institutions in Canada, I mean, are like busy trying to catch up because they have it's on one hand, I think sometimes it's like what you're saying, you know, racism follows you or chases you, and it's like, you know, the ugly face, you know, shows up every now and then. And that is sometimes, I think it's true. Sometimes it's like a type of, to me, I would say racism or prejudice by omitting them. You know, it doesn't occur to people. Oh, you could have, you know, an installation artist, you know, from, you know, some northern community. Oh, some sound designer, or, you know, contemporary dance. Oh, there are contemporary dancers out there. There are contemporary artists. And it's things that they haven't considered. And now, in the last 10 years or so, to me, it seems like, you know, they've been asked these hard questions, and it's persistent. You know, it's not just like an article or a television show or whatever, that, you know, if people want to put up a fight, make a fuss, they can do that. You know, if an exhibition comes out, or, you know, I'm thinking about like the Museum of Fine Arts in Montreal had a couple of years ago had this idea to produce and sell a line of native themed kind of like household arts stuff. You know what they call that now? It's like giftware, you know. And the problem was that it was all hokey. That it was all kind of like a little higher end version of like the cheap dollar store dream catchers. And it was like, what? And they were shocked when artists who were coming out of the woodwork now, who have lots of experience exhibiting and discussing these issues, you know, said, well, excuse me, Museum of Fine Arts, you got it wrong. You know, selling high-end kind of Indian knockoffs isn't Indigenous knockoffs isn't acceptable today. So, you know, you have to change. I think in the past, people were able, in museums, institutions were able to say, or hold their breath, you know, that people would walk away and they would, you know, like hitting on the big door at the museum, you know, that no one would hear them. But people heard them, and they had to backtrack, and they removed it from their sales, from their museums. Gift shop.
I think what's happened is they don't know where to go. And we have one person who's asking a question in the chat about how do you know who's an authentic Native or Indigenous craftsperson. And I did a couple of things over time. I went to a gallery and I had my artwork in there, and I got ripped off quite a bit for several different galleries. For whatever reason, they thought that they could do whatever they want because I was too naive to know that there was protocols. Like, they should have given me a paper that said they're going to have this painting, this painting, this painting for X amount of time. But they didn't do that. They just took all my work and then more or less ran away with it. I even went to Paris and I didn't even know I was there. Somebody else went as my doppelganger, I guess. But like, there's a lot of horror stories like that. But at the time, what I did is I actually went to some of the art museums and asked them about, like, in their shops, like, how do you bring your work here to sell? And they're talking about doing wholesaling. There's a market for it. They wanted you to prove who you are. The other thing, and they will pay you fair dollar for a wholesale price, but they will never pay you a retail price because they obviously have to make money as well. There are 2 new places on Facebook that are Indigenous run art. They're sort of galleries, but not really, because you have all your work. They facilitate marketing your work and selling your work. And they're both fairly new. So what I will do is I will give Farah the information so that she can post it somewhere, because I can't look for it right this second. But it's opportunity for all Native artists, and it depends on how you want to do it. One of the organizations has it where you make 30%. So whatever it is that you're making, you're selling for 30%. 30% goes to a charity of your choice. 30% goes to the company that's doing all the facilitating of selling your work for you. And 5% is for administrative costs of something, I'm not sure. The other, and you can do it that way, or you can directly sell yourself and keep all the money for yourself as well, as long as you have a method of ensuring that your artwork is selling. So like myself, I do sales on through Facebook. I use Square, because Square I can charge with any kind of card or debit card, and the money is there. It's automatic. There's also PayPal, but which will guarantee your that you are getting paid. However, with PayPal, if the person decides that they don't want it after they have it, it's up to PayPal to decide whether or not that you have to reimburse. So it's kind of a little sticky. But authenticity is really what people are looking for. They want to make sure that it's made by Native artists and Native craft people, and that they are Native. So like right now, we know 85% of the art that's Native art, a Native styled art, is made by other people, not Natives. So they're filling that market that we're not fulfilling, because we don't know the business side as well. It takes a long time to understand business unless you're taking courses for it. So if you can find a resource or something of where people are able to do that. I know Canada Arts Council in Ontario is really fantastic for working with artists and helping them to market their work. And in Quebec, it's a lot, I've found it's a lot harder. There's a lot of checks and balances that you just, it's almost impossible to get through. And you're lucky if you can somehow manage it. So as for keeping, I guess, a repository of names, I don't even know if there's one anywhere of all the Native artists and what they actually do. So that might be maybe a project that somebody could take on, is getting that listing of the people and looking at what they actually create, because you have artists who specialize, like I know one girl who only does quilt making. I know somebody else that's only doing beadwork. I know somebody else that's doing stained glass. And yourself, Martin, you do printmaking. I do painting, but I also do all these other stuff. So I have like 2 streams, I guess. I have the fine art part, and then I also do the craft part. And I think a lot of that is because I was a teacher for so many years. So I know how to do a lot of different things, and I'm a little ADHD. So I bounce around all over the place between projects. So like right now I'm doing a set of 20 panels for mini pot. So that's not like your normal kind of thing that an artist would do, but I'm doing it because it's for community. So see, we have to give back as well.
Well, they're still in business. They're still part of Indian Affairs, but there's the Indian Art Center in Hull, or in Gatineau now. They have a collection of art that they've collected, I think, probably since like the early 60s and so on. And years ago, they used to publish a magazine, and they used to promote Indigenous art all over Canada and US and internationally. And I think they used to send exhibitions from the collections to embassies and to foreign delegations and all this, and World's Fairs and everything. They possibly could improve that. Maybe it could be something that someone lobbies that organization to do. And in Quebec, I remember, I think Pauline, Oizogu, you were part of the Native Artists of Quebec and everything. And I think there was a point when the Quebec Native Arts and Crafts people took over the Quebec Native Artists and so on. I think sometimes organizing is the best thing for artists to do, like locally, nationally, internationally. But sometimes it's like what they say about cats, trying to keep cats all in one place. It's not an easy task. And sometimes, the best organizations, last for some time, get a lot done, and then fold for any number of reasons.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is to share information, because there's room for everybody. If you have 15 Native painters, there's a market for those 15 Native artists. It's a matter of getting that information out to them and posting it where they can find it. And also any things that are coming up, to let the other artists know, and to post those kind of things where they can find it, so that they can expand their outreach and marketing and that sort of thing. And you're right, like social media is a big thing right now in promoting self-promotion of art. And it's hard to go back to doing wholesale pricing when you're getting full price when you sell it yourself. But finding the markets are a challenge.
Oizogu, thank you very much for that. I know that sharing that you mentioned is so important for all of us in the world of arts, culture, heritage, identity. And definitely, if you all give me your links and your ways of getting in touch with you, then I will be sure to advertise it to the community. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And to all the participants, we're having these sessions on a daily basis. So if you like today's session, please do come back tomorrow, and as well as on Sunday. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Same here.
Everybody.
Yes.